Start. Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vasic. You can find me on X at #Kangas, Instagram #Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by my Thursday night regular correspondent, Siobhan Rowe. Thanks for coming on tonight, Siobhan. We are here to preview the upcoming game against the D's on Sunday. Before we do that, let's get your thoughts on the round one loss to the Dogs. A little bit of a disappointing result with the Dogs, especially with the amount of injuries they had coming in and with the chances we had going into that last quarter to probably get our first win and get the season going.
Hi, Dean. An absolute pleasure to be on again. And look, I'm really happy we didn't record the podcast straight after the game. It would have been a very, very different sounding Siobhan if we'd done it like that. Look, I'm still disappointed and I still think it was a lost opportunity. Obviously, you can look at it positively in that we lost the game by 16 points. But I think why I was so angry is because there were just patches of the game where we just let the game fall away. And that was what was really frustrating. And we've spoken about it a lot and there's been lots of clips shown of the lack of want for defensive play, and that's what's very frustrating. It was the start of the fourth quarter and most definitely the first quarter, which I think it was actually disgraceful the way they showed up to start round one. To be really honest with you, it was difficult to watch when there'd been such a preseason full of hope to start the year like that. That's what was really unacceptable and disappointing. I think also from my point of view, I was frustrated sitting there. Once again, we spoke about last week, the only way that we were going to really win the game is if the midfield won it for us. And I thought that they were, some of the players were disappointing on the night. I thought, this is not to pod him because he carries the side every week, but Harry Sheezel didn't have a very big impact on the game. I thought LDU didn't really stamp his authority like he should have on the game. There were positives. I thought Will Phillips actually played really well, and it was baffling to see him subbed out because I actually thought that he was very impactful in the way that he actually performed a lot of impressive defensive acts, a tackle on the wing that I recall, which was a really exciting moment. That sort of stuff is what the team's crying out for. So that was a real head scratcher. I thought O'Sullivan had a great debut. He was really clean and composed and has great speed. So it was nice for him to show his skills off. But I thought overall that part of the ground was disappointing. And to be honest with you, the defence, and we'll talk more about this, considering we won't have Griffin Logue and Jackson Archer there, the Archer decision is great, but that's a separate issue again. But look, I think our defence is still a real worry. It's a real worry. And it goes to what we've spoken about a lot, Dean, in that the list build is just so midfield heavy and they just haven't prioritised key defensive or key position players. And this is what you get. This is sometimes the result that you get when you go down that path. So, look, they did well to stay in the game, I think, as well. And every time the Dogs sort of kicked away, I think they were able to respond. So that's obviously a positive thing. But you can't help but think it's another missed opportunity to get a win on the board. And if they're not taking chances like they had on the weekend, then I'm concerned about where we're going for the rest of the season. Melbourne played incredibly well against the Giants, and they may also be undermanned in some way without Stephen May, etc. But look, it's just hard. It's hard to see where the next win's coming from, considering they didn't grab that opportunity by the throat. So a chance to bounce back this week for a few players and for the team overall. But it's hard to come away from that without a bit of taste in your mouth.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Now, I want to go back to your thoughts on the defenders. Now, you talked about key position defenders. I actually think more of a concern sometimes is the mid-sized to small defenders.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a couple of those players like Vandermeer, Riley, mainly Vandermeer, really get on top of us. I won't mention who was on him for the first three quarters or even who was on him in the last quarter, but he ran, he ran rags around us. Last quarter, he seen Lockie McNeil. It seems to me that I'm just as concerned about the small defenders, probably even more concerned than the key defenders. But you might be the opposite way with that.
I think it's the defence as a whole. I think my concern when I speak about key position players is that I've spoken about this before, and it's no disrespect to the guys that we have down there, but I just think that they're battlers, and the Dogs did have Norton and Darcy, and I thought Charlie Comben wasn't great. Did keep Sam Darcy to only the one goal, but when you watch the game in its entirety, he monstered him. That's just the sad reality. And I thought Cole was okay on Norton, but at the same time, I just think they battle away, and I'd love to just take Jacob Wiedering out of Carlton and stick him in our defensive 50. We are lacking that sort of player, and it's too early to blood Whitlock. I don't even want to sort of touch that realm because it would just destroy his confidence. But you're right. It's also a concern. I thought Archer would be playing on Fritsch, and thanks to the MRO stupidity, he won't be. So that's a concern there. But I do understand what you're saying. I think Luke McDonald's not the answer. He didn't have a horrible game, but he's just not quite there, is he? He's just not quite there. And Darcy Tucker as the sub, Dean, was an odd choice. I really thought that we'll obviously unpack it a bit further about what we do this week, but the sub's supposed to come on and in Hawthorn's case, they bring on an experienced player like we are doing, but an experienced player that can actually impact the game. I don't think Darcy Tucker's a player that's going to come on and impact the game. He's always been a low possession player. So yeah, it's difficult to know who's going to play on who this week in terms of Melbourne's forward half when we have lost Logan and Archer. But why do you not think that Hardiman didn't come into the squad, Dean? If that's the kind of path they want to go down.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. Obviously, the match committee and so forth see something there that they think he's probably not ready. I don't know the answer to that. Apparently, he's quite good in the reserves last week. So, yeah, but whether they just want to develop him there for the next few rounds until his opportunity comes, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. But if another thing that concerns me, when that ball's in the back 50, we don't have a lot of players with composure there. They look really panicky, especially with a little bit of pressure. You just sort of see they don't know if they should hoof it or they handball to someone else that's under pressure. Besides Caleb Daniel and probably Finn O'Sullivan in his first game, mind you, the rest of them, they make me really nervous, Siobhan.
They've got no composure, Dean, and that's the big problem. It was scrap ball. I don't know if it's a synergy issue, if it's a player issue. It's hard to identify, but you never feel comfortable ever. And I thought Caleb Daniel was okay in his first game, but made some mistakes and some moments that are uncharacteristic. Yes. And I wonder, it just seems so strange that he almost went into his shell as well, and we never really saw that at the Bulldogs. He had flair and class and ability to take the game on. The players around him that are not enabling him to do that. Because I wouldn't feel, not trying to speak for the players, but I wouldn't feel super comfortable if I was around Luke McDonald and Darcy Tucker and I had the license to kind of thrill, if that makes sense. Like, I would not necessarily think that they would be the guys I'd want backing me up in a defensive role. So I don't know. I'm expecting bigger things from him this week. But we don't have much creativity or flair or drive if it's not O'Sullivan. And that was in his first game that he probably gave us the most of that out in the back half. And I think we know the game is now played purely on rebounding off half back who can do that the best and score. And I think we struggled to do that again, which is actually a real concern, Dean. So, and it's more the ease at the way the opposition scores their goals at times too that's really difficult to watch. And that was exposed for all its glory in the first quarter and in the first sort of 5 minutes of the last quarter. That are they hungry enough, or is it the way that they're playing? It's hard to see after round one, but they'd want to improve on it this week.
Definitely. Omar has come into the chat. He's talking about team selection. We will get to that later. Omar, thanks for chiming in there. So we may as well stick with Clarkson. And his message, it seems like he even said it today, his message seems to be the same, that he just wants to be in games longer at 3/4 time. So it's almost like an acceptance of competitive losses to me. Now, I don't know if it's just taking a bit of pressure off the players or just lowering expectations with them. I'm not 100% sure. But what message is that sending, do you think, Siobhan?
Dean, I'm so glad you raised this and brought this up because I was listening to his press conference today, and certainly after the game. Um, I just hope that there was some different messaging going on behind closed doors, because you're right, it does feel as though we are accepting mediocrity, and unless he's misread the room entirely, I think supporters want to win games this year, and we are no longer accepting being in games or having good quarters or being competitive. We need to start winning games of football, and I think that that's the only way that the tide will turn anyway. How are they going to get belief that he keeps talking about? They need that belief. They need this and that. The only way that they're going to get this belief is if they start winning games of football. And maybe all of us are wrong, and maybe 16-point losses are great, and they're all patting each other on the back. But I'd hope not. I'd hope that they were striving for more. But yeah, the messaging is to me, it's round one, and I'm not pressing the panic button yet. But I would like to hear, we'd let an opportunity slip. It should have been a win, and we were disappointed with the way that we came out in the first quarter, and we were disappointed with the way that we let the Dogs just run rampant for 5 minutes and blew the game away from us. I don't know where we're at, Dean, in terms of the expectations internally. I bloody well hope that they're saying we need to rise up the ladder. Enough's enough. Because if the messaging is we need to stay in games for longer and not get blown away, but just accept that, then of course subconsciously when you lose by 16 points, oh well, it was a much better effort than last time. But that's not the way they should be approaching things. I worry that we are in this strange area of mediocrity where it is there's no pressure on them internally to take the next leap, that we are still branding ourselves as young and inexperienced and learning, and there's not this hunger to necessarily get back up the ladder. So it's a watch. It's certainly something that we will all keep our eyes on over the next few rounds, especially. But yeah, I truly think that if we're wallowing in that, then we're in for a long year.
Yeah, it's almost an acceptance that we're still a couple of years away. That's what it feels like with his messages during pre-season and even this year so far. So yeah, we're only one round in, so yeah, who knows? Messaging might change, but like you said, we don't know what goes on inside closed doors. Maybe the message is very different there. So yeah, not much we can do about it. We'll just go by his word. That's what he's telling the media anyway.
It does feel strange. I know you mentioned this on the podcast with the boys the other week, but he does refer to Cawthorn a lot and old sort of times and things like that. And I think that messaging is getting tiring from my point of view as well, because you're at North now and it's an entirely different script and narrative. And I know you can reference Brisbane and the rise they had and your time at Hawthorn and what you did there, but I think this is a different list. It's a different era. It's all these different things that I don't want to hear about that anymore. I want to hear about how we're going to get better and how we're going to develop our youngsters to become, the players that are going to drive us forward and win us games of football. I worry about that sort of messaging because it subconsciously it's like, oh, but there's no pressure on us to win if we just stay competitive and stay in games, and we can sort of take the foot off the throat, which, look, I don't know if that happened in last week, but it's so frustrating when I just feel like it's so easy for the opposition and so damn hard for us to score and so damn hard for us to do anything when it just looks easy. And look, I'm not out on the ground, but yeah, it's hard to watch continuously, I think, Dean.
It can be challenging certain periods, especially if you see the same sort of individuals do the same sort of mistakes. Whether they're getting challenged or not, I'm not too sure. So we'll have to wait. But I'm curious as to how this is going to go over the next few weeks. Now, after this week, the draw gets really tough. I think we've got the Crows away. That's not going to be pretty, I wouldn't think.
No.
Gold Coast look really good on a weekend.
Yeah, they look unbelievable at the moment too.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the gather rounds, and yeah, I can't remember who else we got after that. I'm not even looking that far ahead. I just want to get through this week, so
Yeah, yeah.
we'll sort of see how we go. Now, the Jackson Archer suspension, he must have been, obviously deserved that 3 game suspension. I mean, the guy falling to ground and accidentally
Oh
going into
my
his knee.
god.
I mean, where's this game going if that's getting a 3 game suspension based on the merit that he got a concussion, so you get suspended. So if his shoulder went into Jackson Archer's leg and he broke his leg, which I thought he did at the
Yeah,
time,
so did
I
I.
think
Yeah.
even I thought he might have done his ACL or something like that. Yeah, like it's just ridiculous. I don't even know where to go to this, but yeah, if it was the opposite way around, and let's say Cleary hurt, did his ACL or broke his leg, would he got suspended? It doesn't make any sense. That's not how a tribunal should work. And for him to get 3 games is it's almost criminal, really.
Oh, 100%, Dina. Unfortunately, it's become an outcome-based system. For an act that had no malice, and at the end of the day, he actually took Archer's legs out. So
Yeah.
I was surprised it wasn't even Archer's free kick. And obviously, thoughts are with Luke Cleary. No one ever wants to see someone get knocked out and hurt that way, but it was a football act. I don't quite understand what they expected Jackson Archer to do. Just click his fingers and disappear out of the contest or do a somersault. It's bizarre as to what they actually wanted him to do to avoid the contact. And at the end of the day, it was his free kick. So it's a really bizarre situation. And the MRO has obviously drawn a line in the sand with the Scrimshaw suspension as well in the same round, that if you knock someone out, even if it's a football action and you basically couldn't prevent that from happening, you will get suspended. So it's an outcome-based system. It's a farce, and I worry about the way the game's going. Obviously, in my personal opinion, the AFL is shit scared about litigation issues down the track when it comes to concussions. So they need to be seen to be doing something to punish players that accidentally, knock other players out. But I'd be fearful of how the game's going if that's a 3 match suspension, to be honest, Dean. It was actually really disappointing that the club didn't actually appeal again. Obviously, I'm not in the room. I don't know if they had grounds or means to do it, but it doesn't seem fair or right. And I'm really disappointed at the outcome.
No, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that for the next half an hour and how
Yes.
ridiculous it is, but yeah, we'll move on. And unfortunately, he's out for the next 3 games, and he's a big loss, especially this week with the job he did on Bailey Fritsch last year. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Jack Darling is playing his 300th game.
Yes.
North Melbourne legend Jack Darling. What are your fondest memories of Jack Darling in a North Melbourne jumper?
Oh, Dean, definitely his first goal. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Look, he was probably the number one positive for me on the weekend. Obviously, Bull Zerha didn't actually get the rewards, I think, for Darling's role. Like he did with his 5 goals. No sign of that corky there. He was absolutely phenomenal again. But I thought Darling's role on lob was super important. And I think that you barely saw Rory Lobb taking intercept marks, which, I wouldn't be surprised if he did the same sort of role on Lever this week. But it was great to see him kick his first goal. Excellent body work, and took that strong mark and went back and kicked it. And look, he just seems like he's a really, obviously hasn't been out at our club for very long, but I think he's already made a profound impact on everyone at the club. They call him, father figure, and I saw the great videos that the club released during the week. But he seems like he's a really great leader and a great person, and fits into our club really nicely. And his work on field, like I mentioned, just the support and freedom he's giving our other players and leadership he's bringing on field. I thought he was a standout of our 3 recruits on the weekend. And you can't help but put your eyes on him in the forward line, though. He's such a demanding presence that I think he will always drag 1 or 2 defenders to him. If he's not marking it, he's allowing our other forwards to do it. And he's just got smarts that you can't buy. And I think that's why he was a fantastic pickup from West Coast too. And congratulations to him. I mean, 300 games is a mighty milestone and a mighty effort. Obviously, he's the second highest I think it's a games player at West Coast, or goals kicked, or one of those two. And his sort of resume speaks for himself. And I'm sure would be a lot of messages coming his way this week of players that have appreciated his friendship and guidance throughout the years too. So obviously one game for us, but a legacy really on the game itself and at West Coast. So it'll be great to celebrate this week, and hopefully with a win and a big game for him too.
No, definitely. Yeah, look, he was really good last week. And like you said, he's a very smart footballer. He's still got his smarts. He's probably lost a little bit of his athleticism over the last couple of years. He seems a lot trimmer this year than he did last year. Last year he seemed a bit heavy playing for West Coast, but this year they've really trimmed him down. So he's moving a lot better, it feels like, anyway, to me. And, yeah, no, that was a fantastic mark and goal last week. He protected the space in front of him. Not many forwards have got that smart football craft as particularly key forward, but he knew what he was doing the whole time. And yeah, no, he's going to be a handy recruit. And Nick Larkey got his lick of the ice cream, as he would say, kicked 5 goals. Zerha could have easily kicked 3 or 4. So yeah, no, definitely a handy recruit so far. We'll go to team changes, Siobhan. Now, I think Omar came in. I'll read yours out in a minute, Omar. But Toby Pink, Miller Bergman, Dylan Stevens, Finbar Melly, Bryn Teakle, all coming to the team, all on the interchange bench, I believe. And out of the team, Griffin Lowe with a minor hamstring complaint. Jackson Archer, obviously, with that suspension. Are you kind of happy with those changes, or a bit underwhelmed, like possibly most people would be?
Dean, look, obviously it's the extended bench, but I feel really uninspired. And I know that's probably a harsh comment to make. But I personally, and I love your thoughts on this too, thought that the players that let us down the most on the weekend were seasoned veterans. So why are you going to the well again with Toby Pink and Dylan Stevens and these guys? I'm struggling with the lack of maybe bringing in a Riley Hardiman or bringing in maybe Will Dawson for a crack, or where's Eddie Ford, or that's where my mind went when I saw the team. Yeah, look, I don't know where to go with this, because it's difficult to know how they go. But I personally, I think that Bergman will come in for Archer, and they may go Toby Pink to take over Logue's spot. I hope Finbar Maley gets his opportunity soon. But yeah, it's difficult. There's just I look at that team on paper, Dean, and I don't know how you feel either, but it looks like there's a lot of positive elements in there, but then you see that those players that have come in, and it doesn't get me up and going. It doesn't excite me, and I think bringing in different players probably would inspire a little bit more in the side. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have liked. Yeah, I think Andrew has come in. Even he said it's so uninspiring, and give Hards a run. FFS. Omar came in before. Clarko's really dropped the ball this week with selection. What exactly does Pink or Bergman give us? Neither speed or disposal efficiency.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pink will come in, because we probably don't need that third tall this week. They're not a very tall team, because they did. Yep. I think that Johnson's out of the team, so they might go another runner. I'm not too sure where that will be. I think Bergman comes in for Jackson Archer, which is fine, but they might bring in, I think, Dylan Stevens, which.
So what does Stevens bring to this team, Dean, that changes our fortunes from last week? And personally, where I got frustrated last week was skill errors, and again, players not lowering their eyes or making good decisions. Does Dylan Stevens come in and change some of that, or does he add to the problem?
Well, as an outside player, we probably lacked that one more outside player last week, I felt like. So he can play that role. His skills are okay. Generally, he's not bad with his foot disposal, but he doesn't have a high ceiling either. We kind of know what he's going to get, 13, 14 disposals, get a few cheap kicks in the back line and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to trial a Riley Hardiman, like a couple of people have said. Even in the forward line, I still want to see Eddie Ford there. Even he could push up onto a wing like he did with the B team a few weeks ago. I really want to see him get an opportunity. I don't want him languishing in the reserves for the rest of the year. I don't think that's fair. Now, and I'll bring this up again, Siobhan. It's just a team imbalance thing. I think there was a centre square, centre square. Bounce that I think we had Will Phillips, Harry Sheasel, Jai Simpkin. We had a bunch of Luke Parker, I think, and then Larky and Darling up in the forward line. I mean, we had a couple of midfielders there just because we've got to put them in. It's just a team balance thing at the moment that doesn't sit well with me. I think we've still got one too many midfielders. That's why Will Phillips was subbed off last week as well, because there's just too many midfielders. So, yeah. I mean, it's disappointing that we've come to this. That certain players who are in the best 22. I think Eddie Ford is the best 22 player quite comfortably.
Yep.
Don't get that opportunity because we just got too many midfielders in the team at the moment.
It's just, I feel like we're doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result, especially, and I don't want to name names because this is not what I would like to do, but especially when you go to the likes of McDonald and Tucker that, yes, they're tried and tested and they stand up to the rigours of AFL footy, but they're uninspiring footballers. And it's difficult to know what these other players can do, but I think that people are willing to accept the same result that we seem to be getting if we are playing different players in these positions. And personally, I don't think we'll see a worse off result by giving some of these players an opportunity and a chance. I still don't think there's enough accountability. I know it's round one, we played one game, but we lack something that's difficult to put my finger on, and I think we need a few more weeks to figure out potentially what it is. But it's just, you're right, it just seems imbalanced. It seems wrong. I'm surprised they didn't bring in Fisher potentially as well this week, Dean. That was my surprise.
I thought he was coming in.
Yeah, I know he's not the answer necessarily, and his disposal, much like the rest of the teams, needs work at times. But I thought he was a good option. It feels like players are playing in the wrong position just from what I noticed. I mean, the thing that really stood out to me on Saturday, and I'd love your thoughts on this too, is where is Colby McKercher playing and what's his role? I thought he was a little bit lost. We weren't able to actually see much of his run and ball use and, attack, because I just think he was stifled, whether or not that was the Dogs able to stop that, or whether or not he's just not playing in the right spot. I thought you discussed this with the boys on Tuesday, but the incredible number of centre bounce attendances that Luke Parker had was a bit staggering for me. So all these things are a big watch, and Paul Curtis got into the game late and kicked 3 goals, and I thought he was very good on the day. But even I thought he was playing in some different spots, and they're trialing things, but we're at round one and it was a winnable game, and I think some of the choices were a bit head scratching, and against the D's, I'd hope for something different. I know that they've named Bailey Scott at half back, but I wouldn't want to see that either. I'd like to see him stay on the wing too, and why we were playing Davies Uniacke so much up forward was really odd too. And I know that you're right. You hit the nail on the head before. It's a team balance thing that I don't know where we find the answer to this. It's hard. Very quickly too, speaking of it, just came into my head that Robert Hansen Jr.'s game was outstanding, and I'm really happy to see him starting this week again too. And I actually think he is going to be an immovable force in that side. And maybe that's why Eddie Ford's not getting a game at the moment, Dean. I think he's good enough to be in the side, but the form of Robert Hansen Jr. last week was outstanding. And if he can learn to hit the scoreboard as well, I think we've got ourselves a real player there.
He played a lot on the wing last week too, which is a little bit bizarre. I thought because Colin McKercher was playing, it was almost a high half forward. Now,
Yeah,
I was going to mention McKercher later, but we'll talk about him now. I hate the role he's playing only because he's leading up to the ball and he's not running towards goal. I want him because he's got his back towards goal because he's running up to the ball. Whereas the other, if he's playing on a wing, he's going the other way. He's going to get second, third, fourth link in the chain. He's going to be running towards goal, kicking the ball inside forward 50. That's the role I hate at the moment. He's pushing up the ground too much, and he's getting balls on the wing, not in dangerous spots, and he's just leading up to the ball, and his back's towards goal. That's the role I hate with him at the moment. I understand they want to troll him in a few, a different spot, but if you're going to do that, put him back in the back line. Get some drive out of there because we need a lot of pace in that back line. What do you think of his role? Like it's been like this for the last 3 weeks, counting preseason games, and playing the B team or whatever it was a few weeks ago as well, an intra-club match. What do you think of his role?
I don't like it, Dean. I'm with you 100%. Everything you said is spot on. My frustration as well is that we are what I loved about Finn O'Sullivan's game, he stood out like a gem because he is composed, cool, uses the ball well, and can run. That's why I thought he was outstanding off halfback. And at times there was a moment in the game where he actually got stuck on Aaron Norton. I don't know how that sort of broke down in that way, but he's obviously that's not what he's there to play. That's not his role. But other than sort of that terrible moment, I thought he had a really great game. And we're crying out for someone else to be part of that sort of role, and I think McKercher's perfect for it, which is why he did that all last year. Why they're not maybe rotating him off the wing and off that halfback role is weird to me. He did look a little bit lost. It wasn't his best game, but I also think it's partially where he's playing and the expectations that have been put on him. I think he needs to. He's a confidence player, if you ask me to. And he's got to get his confidence back up by getting his hands on the footy and being let to run like a racehorse. So I actually think the combination of O'Sullivan, McKercher, and Daniel would actually give us a lot of drive and good use out of that back line, where I just think we struggle so much to defend and then create play and then stop the opposition from just running away with it. So I think that his best position is probably wing halfback.
Now, obviously not having Jackson Archer, that means we need small defenders. So maybe Luke McDonald goes to Fritsch. I've seen Charlie Spargo. I've seen Charlie Spargo is coming back into the team. He's a good small forward. Cade Chandler, they've got Tom Sparrow. There's a lot of small forwards. This is going to be a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Like Caleb Daniel obviously go to one of them. He probably goes to the least dangerous one, which is probably Cade Chandler. You don't want him to play too much of a defensive role. But someone like, I'm not too sure, Tom Sparrow, if Darcy Tucker's on him, it could be, he's the one that could get off the chain. Or what was that guy? I think it was Sharp, wasn't it? Harry Sharp in that pre-season. Yeah, I mean, it could just be one of those games where a small forward could kick 3 or 4 goals like that, and they probably win by 3 or 4 goals, and it could be a difference, couldn't it, Siobhan? Because that defence, it makes me really nervous. And like you said, I don't mind having Colin McKercher back there because it adds a bit of composure, someone with the ball. You got him, Finn O'Sullivan. It's not a bad 1-2 punch with Caleb Daniel as well, 1-2-3 punch. 3 good users of football. I mean, it doesn't matter. We can't defend anyway, so you might as well get attacking rebounders out there when we do get the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. They're smalls, Melbourne. It keeps me awake. I think it's obviously you don't want to see anyone injured, but Caleb Wins is also an excellent footballer, so at least he's not sort of in the mix there. But Bailey Laurie plays, he's quite dangerous. Turner, Spargo, I think they've brought all these players in because they know that that's probably where they can get us. That their forward line would be able to trouble us. I think. Does Core go to Van Rooyen, in your opinion?
I think so. I think that's
Yeah.
a good matchup for him. So, yeah, they got Turner. I don't know. Well, Turner might not play. He might not get a game.
The difficulty here is I think that they know they can also exploit us by putting Petrarca forward as well. I think that'll be a really dangerous matchup for them, and I'm not sure who plays on Petrarca when he goes down there. That'll be a real handful. But yeah, they've got a lot of.
They've got options, yeah.
Absolutely, they can, and that's where I get a little bit nervous too. Look, that Xavier Lindsay as well can also sort of play that role. They've got an absolute plethora of them, and no Jackson Archer to tell Bailey Fritsch up like he did last time. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, look, it's hard to know how they set up Melbourne, but they've got a lot of smalls that can cause a few issues. So it has to be a team defense team. It really does, and it has to start out of the middle. And I think my biggest worry with our midfield, Dean, is do they run both ways hard enough? Do they want to get their hands dirty, or do they want to be doing the flashy stuff? That's probably my biggest challenge for them this week, is that I think a few of them got caught wanting in last week, and do they want to get their hands dirty as well? And I think all of them would know that we're missing Logan Archer, and are they willing to run both ways and be like Jacob Constanti and really do the grunt work and win the ball back or keep the ball in for us. So it'll have to be a team defense, because I think we're going to struggle with the amount of sort of forward options they've got.
Yeah, team defense from quarter time onwards, second and third quarter, was pretty good, I felt like, and it was a good platform to build on. So I did really like that. I think Ricky Mangides did a great article on that. So, yeah, if people want to read that, he talks about it in a lot more depth. But I think we only conceded 5 goals through basic errors between that second and third quarter.
Yep.
But it wasn't through team defense. So, yeah, that doesn't really worry me too much. I think we've got a good platform to build on there. Just on at midfield, I mean, we mentioned Luke Parker getting the second most CBAs, no clearances in those as well. Surely he doesn't get that this week and spends more time in the forward half. I don't think we need him in there unless we're desperate. I think he's more there as leadership in a mentoring role. He's not the same player he was 2 or 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago. I think he's a very different player. Now, he still adds a lot of value, but you don't need to throw him in the midfield and have him have the second most CBOs. I think he could have given a few more to Harry Sheezel. Even Will Phillips. You could have kept him on and could have given him a few more. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%, and all three of you made some great points on Tuesday night about that. But I think we brought Luke Parker into the side, in my opinion, is to play majority of the time half forward, and to be out on the park to provide leadership and a steadying hand. Look, I didn't think he had his best game and maybe didn't make the impact that he would have wanted to last week. It's so hard to know with the sheer amount of midfielders we have, but I thought Simpkin didn't get enough time in there either.
Yeah,
he kicked
true.
the goal and he dribbled that ball through, and as much as he makes me want to tear my hair out at times with his disposal and decision making, but he probably deserves more minutes in there, especially being the captain of the footy side too. So look, it'd be interesting to see the mix that they go with, but personally, I think with Parker in there, he's the one that could feed the ball out to Sheezel and McKercher and Davies Uniacke to burst away and explode. He's not that sort of player anymore. He doesn't have that in him. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the division goes this week with Parker. But personally, probably too many centre bounce attendances for mine.
I mean, he could have flipped that around with Jai Simpkin, who only had 10 last week. He had 30 touches, Jai Simpkin. He looked really good in the Indigenous All-Stars games where he was playing predominantly in the midfield. And he looked really good last week too. Yeah. I know he turns the ball over occasionally, but you cop that. He did a couple of nice passes too. He broke a line in his centre square and did a really nice pass to Paul Kerrs inside forward 50. That got his second goal. So, yeah, and sometimes we dismiss that like he does do, the odd good pass. So, but sometimes he just does the odd shank and but he's no different than anyone else really most of the time. I mean, Harry Sheasel did some pretty ordinary turnovers in that first quarter last week. He did a left foot snap that was nowhere near Bailey Scott that cost us a goal. But he seems to get away with it a little bit more. And it's understandable. It's Harry Sheasel. He does a lot of great things. So, but yeah, I just think we're a bit harsh on Jai Simpkin a lot. So, yeah, I mean, you could easily flip that around, getting back to the point. Jai Simpkin have 19, Luke Parker have 10, or even less, to be honest with you. But yeah, we'll see how that midfield goes this week, because Melbourne's midfield, they're still, Clayton Oliver looks like he's almost back to where he was a couple of years ago. It's a bit early now to call it, but they've got Petrarca, Viney's a big bull in there as well. It's probably, and Max Gawn obviously is effectively another midfielder. So it's an important part of the ground, and we have to get these matchups right, don't we?
Absolutely. I think it's a remiss of me not to mention Tristan Sherry as well. I mean, we are so blessed to have that man, and it's just his rise has been remarkable, and I'm really looking forward to the battle between him and Max Gawn. Personally, I think Gawn probably got the All-Australian nod last year due to his reputation rather than his year. I thought Sherry probably had the better year overall, but that'll make for a great battle on Sunday afternoon. So looking forward to that part of the game, and I think that battle actually goes a long way as to who can get their ball. The ball out of the middle, and then obviously we know a lot of the time that is the catalyst to set up the rest of the game. So it is another challenge for our midfield, because Jack Viney is a stalwart and a very, very good footballer as well, and Clayton Oliver is a bull, and Petrarca's almost back to his best too, isn't he? Yeah. So there's a lot of quality, and it's a good test for our midfield. Personally, I don't know if you agree with me, Dean. I was actually disappointed with the collective against the Dogs, because without Bontempelli and Treloar and these guys, they got exposed by Richards, they got exposed by Bailey Dale. A lot of them also got, how do I put it, hoodwinked by what they already knew. At times they knew Bailey Dale was going to be running for that hand pass to kick goal. He did it twice. That was the most frustrating part of the game for me, because it happened twice. And that's on the midfield. Ed Richards just took the P155 at times too, and it was just hard to watch those sorts of things, because they need to be more accountable, and they'll know what Petrarca and Viney and these guys are capable of, and it's whether or not they are switched on for the whole 120 minutes of the game to be accountable for them. That's the part that I'm looking forward to watching. And I also am really looking forward to watching Will Phillips's game, and whether or not this week, with more suitable matchups, he actually has a role. I love a tagger, Dean. I really enjoy that sort of role, and when I wish we could bring Ben Jacobs out of retirement and get him prime, sort of 2015 elimination final type, because I think that goes a long way to shutting the opposition's best player out. And personally, I don't think you can stop Petrarca, because he'll push you forward as well. But maybe there's some close checking of Oliver, who's probably the source of their drive forward too. So yeah, another big week for our mids, and I found myself a lot of the time on Saturday night saying this $1 million midfield's kind of not producing. They've got to get better, and I think it's a good opportunity this week for them to do so.
I mean, LDU was a little bit down last week as well. Look, every time he touched it, something seemed to happen. I think he had 20 touches and 8 scoring involvements, kicked 2 goals as well. Would love for him to get 30 this week, wouldn't we? Because if he gets 30 or plus, or something around that mark, 28 or something like that, we're a big chance to win, I think, sure.
Absolutely, and if you look back to
or maybe
the game,
you don't agree with.
If you look back to the game, the corresponding game last year where we played them at the MCG, it was actually a brilliant game of football, and Bulzer almost won that game for us, and LDU had a really big night. He was absolutely outstanding. So yeah, I don't think that maybe he fully realizes the true potential and value that he has. The guy's just a damn good footballer, and when he's up and going and he's at his best, we look so good and so damaging. I liked the fact that he hit the scoreboard with 2 goals, but I didn't like the fact that he spent so much time forward. He's too valuable a commodity in the midfield for mine, so I want him to have probably more time in there. And just to back himself, he's so explosive and gives us so much when he's confident and backing his ability. And he really can be a match winner for us. So I think it's a really big game for the same guys that actually played really well back last year when we played so well. Zerha, Davies Uniacke, Archer, who won't be there unfortunately, but there were a lot of really positive things to come out of that. And I don't know why we can't try and replicate that as well, because Melbourne were at full strength then as well. So big game for those sorts of boys.
Now we've got an extended bench of we mentioned the players. Who do you think would start as a sub? Let's say Pink and Bergman come in straight swaps for Logue and Archer. Who do you think would start as a sub this week?
Look, it's a question that I've been thinking about for the last couple of hours, because they can't go with Darcy Tucker as the sub again, Dean. I just don't think that that's going to be. He's not the impact player that, or the experienced leader that you need to have coming on as the sub. This is so hard, because there's a lot of quality there that probably should be starting. Look for mine. I think that they'll go with. This is a really, really hard one. Personally, maybe they go Phillips. I don't
that's
know.
what I'm thinking. Yeah, I think they'll go Phillips, to be honest with you. So they've got enough midfielders in that team as it is. And if he's going to get picked, then they'll probably start him as a sub. Just on Will Phillips, he seems to be the probably most subbed on and off player at the moment. He seems to be a little bit crucified, doesn't he, as far as getting continued opportunity?
Look, I'm probably one of his biggest critics, and I have been for a while, but he actually had a really great game on the weekend, and I was surprised to see him be the one subbed off. He is the victim of the list build, if you ask me. He really is. I don't think he's doing anything wrong or not performing in any way. He's not going to give you 40 possessions or dominate games. I think he's a serviceable workhorse type midfielder that every team needs, but I just think maybe we've got too many of them.
Yeah, that's probably the problem.
It's really hard, because he deserves to be starting in the side, but looking at the balance and looking at the side on paper, he is the one that will unfortunately probably have to play the sub role due to the fact that there's just so many players like him in the side.
Yeah, I'm thinking he probably will be. I think it's going to be a midfielder, to be honest with you, but yeah. We'll have to wait on team changes. Maybe if Dylan Stephens comes in, he might be the sub. So, I don't think they generally won't pick the same player 2 weeks in a row. And I think Darcy Tucker will get picked again this week. So for his 151st game, club legend, Darcy Tucker. They did a tribute video for him for his 150 games. And most of it was with Fremantle.
Yes.
So, which is understandable because he hasn't had too many at North Melbourne. Anyways, in saying all that, what's your final prediction, Siobhan?
Look, Dina, I'd love nothing more than to come on here and say that I think that we'll win the game. But I gave them that opportunity last week, and unfortunately we couldn't get over the line. Obviously, first home game of the year and Jack Darling's 300th. So it'll be an awesome opportunity to get down to the footy and enjoy the first home game of the year. But I just think Melbourne will be too good. I know there's no Stephen May, and hopefully Jack Darling's able to nullify Jake Lever. But I just think they've got a lot of quality and class in the midfield, and their forwards and their smalls are going to trouble us, especially if they are able to get their game going out of the centre too. I just, with Logan Archer out as well, I don't really know how we're going to stop Melbourne. Look, I don't want to get on here and talk about small wins, blah, 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 but it was nice to see us kick the score that we did on the weekend. That was a positive. I enjoyed watching that, but I think a really big focus for the group should be on trying to keep the opposition to under 100 points, because we just constantly seem to leak big scores. And I'm struggling to see how we stop that from happening on the weekend. So I think Melbourne will probably win by 3 or 4 goals. But yeah, you never know what might happen.
I've gone for a North Melbourne 22-point win, but that was about 6 months ago when I was doing season predictions. So I'll stick with that. So, well, I'm ahead in that because I tipped us to lose by 36 points against the Bulldogs months ago. So I'm ahead. So, yeah, no, I look forward to squaring the ledger this week. Who is there? If there's one player, I asked you this last week, an unusual match winner this week.
Oh, I like that one. Look, I'm going to go Robert Hansen Jr. I was so impressed by him on the weekend. And like I mentioned a bit earlier in the podcast, if he can just add a few strings to his bow in terms of his goal kicking, and I think he got his confidence right up. So I'm picking him to be a match winner or at least to kick a few goals on the weekend. So good luck to him in his career progression.
Oh, no, he definitely looked good last week playing up the ground on the wings. So, yeah, he's a good user of football. You know, very rarely misses targets. I think his disposal efficiency was in the low 90s or something like that. So, yeah, he lowers his eyes and he hits targets. And, yeah, he looked pretty good last week. So, yeah, he's come a long way in the last 12 months. That's for sure. Siobhan,
what about for you, Dean? I'd like to hear yours.
I'll go Darcy Tucker. So, yeah. Otherwise, if he has another shocker like last week, him and Luke McDonald, I'll be playing this soundbite next week. Hang on, here it comes. Of course, it's not going to work. Yeah.
You're done. You're washed. It's over.
Yeah, I'll be playing that soundbite. So, yeah, no, I'm keeping that there for those boys in particular, but not to be too harsh on them. Anyway, Siobhan, that's all I have. Did you want to add anything else before I let you go?
93% Dean for Robert Hansen Jr. So
there you
excellent work from him.
Yeah, beautiful. No, that's it. Yeah, it's not a bad way to finish. We're finished on positive. So there's a lot of bit negative at times, but that's what you get. You know, like we are where we are. Unfortunately. Well, Siobhan, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can get back to one-on-one, square the ledger, and we'll have a lot more positive things to talk about next week.
Pleasure's always mine, Dean. Thank you so much. It was great talking footy with you again, and go Roos.
Oh, definitely. Thank you to all your listeners as well. I'll be back next week again, probably Monday night to review our win, hopefully. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your mates and whoever about it. That's it from me. Bye for now, and go Roos. All right, that's it. Siobhan, thanks for coming on. We're pretty well, so I was happy with that. So we're